The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 25th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by GameTime.co, your headquarters for all your Miami Hurricane ticketing needs. If you want to go to that game this weekend at a cold Syracuse, games indoors, though, Game Time will have you covered, and really doesn't matter what you want to go to, concert, theater, sporting events. Game Time's a great place for you to go find your tickets. We'll talk a little bit more about them later. But Matt, first, I want to spend some time this morning and unwrap Saturday's Wake Forest game. Absolutely crazy day at Hard Rock. Inexplicable that the Canes were in a 6-point game in the middle of the fourth quarter, because the offense just disappeared in the middle of the game, and playing against one of the worst defenses in the country. I mean, I don't know how you explain that. When you look at the stat sheet looks pretty decent. I mean, Jordan Lyles, 7 carries, 115 yards, averaging 16.4 yards a carry. Mark Fletcher averaged 9.2 yards a carry. Damian Martinez, even though he didn't have the same kind of stats as the other guys, ran tough and hard. All the receivers, Jacoby George had 7 catches. Arroyo had 6. Restrepo had 5. Sam Brown 3. Horton 3. So, you look at the stat sheet and you say, okay, not a bad offensive day. But the way the game played out was just a little bit really weird. And it turned out that the defense, the beleaguered defense, the maligned defense, the defense that everybody's been jumping all over, with some justification, actually rose up on Saturday after a pretty rocky start, and had 6 stops in the middle of the game where Wake Forest was just paralyzed offensively. Now, Wake helped a little bit. They stopped throwing the football. I don't understand that. And I don't understand how some of these coaches make millions of dollars, and you just look at what they're doing and you say, wait a minute, they had their success in the first quarter throwing the ball. And then they just put the passing game on mothballs in second. I don't know that did they even have a yard passing in the second half? I mean, for most of the second half, they did not have a single yard passing. I think they got a few on their last possession, but just absolutely put the passing game away. But Matt, as I throw it here to you, the one thing I will say that impressed me the most yesterday was the feistiness of Mish Powell after the game, when somebody brought up the first quarter, and there was an embarrassing play where he and Darryl Porter both ran after the same guy. ESPN humiliated them on national TV. I mean, they ran replays of it, showed them confused, not knowing what their assignments were on that given play. And then there was an absolute coverage bust on a big touchdown play that Wake Forest had, where the receiver was turned loose to nobody. There was nobody home where the receiver was being turned loose. And so it was looking pretty shaky for the Miami defense early, but they pulled it together, did not have any more busts the rest of the game. I thought Lance Guidry did a great job of utilizing his personnel. Tyler Barron had 2 snaps in the game, a very justified demotion the way he's been playing. And I thought Lance Guidry got back to being Lance Guidry again. But finishing the thought on Powell, he stands up and he says, those were 2 plays out of 77. And he said it with defiance. And these kids are taking their performance personally. I think that bodes well for the Canes here the next few weeks, if they can keep building on that. Matt, your thoughts coming out of the Wake Forest game?
Well, my first thought is to congratulate you for opening up your dictionary and earlier using the words like beleaguered and maligned and pronouncing them correctly. I don't know. We look at the pronunciation.
I always have them there, man. They're always right there.
Listen, I didn't watch the game.
I
didn't watch the game. I only saw the final score. You're saying they didn't play well? I don't understand. They killed them. It was a domination. But no. So this was a weird game for me, and I posted about it on the message boards. But literally, this is what was happening. Okay, the first 2 drives of the game for Wake Forest, literally every reporter in their press box is saying that's it. Guidry's definitely fired. And by the end of the game, they're saying, Guidry saved his job. Guidry saved his job. That was this game. Within 3 hours, Guidry went from being fired at the end of the first quarter to figuring it out and everything's fixed. And the truth's always somewhere in the middle. And we'll talk about Syracuse later, but Syracuse has some holes that Pittsburgh showed that Miami runs a somewhat similar system to what Pittsburgh does with dropping guys into covers. It causes Syracuse all kinds of problems. Cal McCord likes to go to his first read. That can sometimes take it away and make him look like Tyler Van Dyke. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But, here's what I think happened. Yes, Guidry adjusted. Kudos to him, big time. And kudos to the defense for stepping up. They gave up 157 yards, I think it was, in the first 2 drives. The last 8 drives, they gave up 66 yards total, okay? My personal thought is that Wake Forest knows they have not a great quarterback in Hank Backmeyer, however the hell you pronounce it. And once he threw that pick 6 and they got the kickoff return for the touchdown, they're like, we're still in this game. We're not going to pass the ball anymore, because they were thinking we'll just stay in it with the run because Miami struggled against the run, They didn't try to pass the ball after that, if you notice. 3rd and 8, they're running the ball. 3rd and 6, they're running the ball. As long as we're within 6 points, let's just try to get to the 4th quarter, because they know they have a bad team and they thought maybe Miami will lose it on their own. Because we know we're not going to win it because they're Wake Forest. They knew they had no chance to compete athletically with Miami, but if Miami had a chance to beat themselves, they've seen Mario's teams do that. That was their strategy. Run, punt. Run, punt. Maybe Cam Ward will throw another stupid interception and we'll return it for a touchdown, be up by a point, and a miracle will happen, right? That was their game plan. What they should probably have done, because teams, I'm sure fans know this, but teams will set their first 10, 20 plays of a game on offense, right? Like, here's what's going to work. Let's do this to start the game based on what we've seen. These are our first 10 plays, whatever it is. They call it the script, right? Wake Forest had a great script to start the game. And then they threw the script out the window once that interception came from the 12, 14-yard line of Miami, with them going in to try and go ahead in the game, or at worst tie it. At that point, it was 10-7. They threw out their own script and said, let's just run the ball up the middle every time. And to their credit, they have a good running back, right, who doesn't really stretch the field horizontally, which, I can't believe they didn't run a single jet sweep with a receiver or somebody after watching the previous game. Like, people in the press box were also saying, this is the worst coaching staff we've ever seen. And sometimes they say that about Miami, but this time they were saying about Wake Forest, because Wake Forest did nothing that Georgia Tech did so successfully. Usually you look at the team that had success the game before and you copy some of it. And those jet sweeps, and guess what? Wake Forest has some speed. Morin on the outside, right? They have some guys, not their star running backs, but some other guys with speed that can do jet sweeps, but they decided we're not going to do that, for whatever reason. So they packed it in soccer terms after those first 2 drives. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Lance Guidry and the Miami defense, but these are just facts. Like, they stopped trying to throw the ball after that pick 6. And maybe they should have, because their quarterback was awful in that game. He had, and this is per Pro Football Focus, so take it with a grain of salt, but he had a clean pocket. He was considered a clean pocket on 16 of 24 dropbacks, their starting quarterback. His grade on those clean pockets was 38%, which means guys were free. The people at Pro Football Focus saw receivers open, and the guy just didn't throw to them. And you could see him just sitting there like this and getting sacked 5 of those times, right? Like, he just never threw the ball. Now, maybe because he knows he sucks. I don't know. He got benched the previous game. He got a little banged up, could have gone back, and they're like, nah, we're good. That was the previous game. And they used their backup quarterback almost the whole second half of the previous game, and you can see why in this game. He was bad. So the weird thing to me now is we go into a Syracuse game with a 10-1 Miami team, and there's no team out there that doesn't have fans complaining. You tell me a single program this morning as we sit here at 5:87 a.m., right? Whatever the hell time it is. I don't have it on my screen right now. But you tell me a single team right now this morning that the fans are happy. BYU fans aren't happy. Alabama, SEC fans for the most part aren't happy. Their teams aren't supposed to lose a game, let alone 2 games in a season. What fans are happy? So I think right now Miami fans, as upset as they are that the team still doesn't look right, doesn't look championship level, I think we're the happiest fans out there. Tell me some fans that are happier than Miami fans this morning. We're 10-1. Control our own destiny. 22 years of failure. Why are we not happy as a Hurricane Nation? Why are we still miserable? Just enjoy it a little bit. Like, I get it. The offense has faltered the last 2 games, which, I was looking at Cam Ward's numbers again, Pro Football Focus, because we're in the press box. We can't add up everything that's happening, right? I'm writing a game story, grading the Canes. Gary's eating popcorn and chicken nuggets. He doesn't have time to watch this stuff. So, like, what are we supposed to do? But according to Pro Football Focus, Cam Ward threw the fewest 10-plus yard passes of his entire season, percent-wise. They were throwing checkdowns. They were throwing, I think it was 60, whatever it was in my story yesterday, 68% was within 9 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's not Cam Ward, okay? That's Shannon Dawson saying, we know we're going to beat Wake Forest as long as we don't make mistakes. Check it down. Here's some quick throws, the horizontal crap we always see. He really had a very conservative game plan for what Miami is. Like, Miami's actual game plan probably didn't look conservative to most people in terms of how they lined up and their routes, but they would throw the ball to the checkdowns. They would throw the ball to the underneath guys consistently throughout the game. And maybe that held the offense back. I don't know. Wake Forest defense is one of the worst in the country. They're fourth from last against the pass in the entire country. And they don't even play Miami every week, right? They're playing some pretty bad offenses. One of the worst total defenses. You go scoring defense, terrible. One of the worst in the country. I mean, you just go down the line, they're just terrible, terrible, terrible. So how is it that Miami has 20 points and a 6-point lead with Wake Forest having the ball at the beginning of the fourth quarter in Miami territory? It's
with 7 of the points coming on an interception.
Yeah, it's a little bit inexplicable, and I understand why Miami fans might be like, what the hell's going on? But there's a reason also Miami's favored by 10.5 against Syracuse, or 10 or whatever the hell it is this morning. Because even with Miami not playing to its ceiling, not even close to its ceiling on either side of the ball, they're still 10-1. That's how good this team actually is. They're still 10-1, not even playing well. So maybe fans should be happy about that.
All right, let's start with the offense. Off of what you just said, I think you hit the nail on the head with, I can't believe I'm saying this, but with the single word that you use called conservative. Lance Guidry the last 2 weeks, not Lance Guidry, Shannon Dawson, the last 2 weeks has derailed himself. I mean, he's shooting himself in the foot because he's over relying on horizontal passing. And that's not Miami's game. The linemen are not athletic enough. The receivers clearly are not good enough at blocking. I'm sure they work on it every week, but I would say 9 out of 10 bubble screens are getting blown up. And then what that's doing is it's putting them in bad down and distance situations that is allowing the other team to tee off on the pass rush and force Cam Ward into incompletions and mistakes. And that's the formula for slowing down Miami. So the suggestion I would make personally is stay vertical, stay north-south. Your running backs are doing a great job. Just beyond phenomenal. Jordan Lyle comes off mothballs and, looks like the second coming of Willis McGahee. Tough inside running, great feet, great speed. Some of those runs. I can't
believe you're comparing to Willis McGahee already. Why not Clinton Portis, or why not Edgerrin James? Why stop at Willis McGahee?
I was trying to think. He's really like the thing I like the most about what I saw yesterday. He wasn't just a speed back. He was punishing people. He was low energy.
He was a freshman Frank Gore, because if you remember, Frank Gore looked similar to Jordan Lyle when he was a freshman. For those of you that covered the team or watched the team way back then, that's the comparison. He's a freshman Frank Gore, not he's already Willis McGahee. Like, he's got the potential of a great, great running back. He's not there yet, but you can see explosion through the line, balance, vision. Like, he's got it all, man. With the ball in his hands right now, I think he's the best running back on the team with the ball in his hands.
The way he ran yesterday, yes.
But as the overall package, pass protection, receiving, knowing what to do, no, that's why he's playing 10, 13 reps a game.
Yeah, there's no reason to force him into more than what he was yesterday. And, Martinez is fine. He didn't have the numbers yesterday, but I thought he played very hard and well. Fletcher's fine. I love the way they're managing the reps of these three guys. They have 3 very good, healthy running backs, and you still got A.J. Allen sitting there on the side too. Although I don't know, nobody has said anything, but I got a feeling he maybe is headed to the portal here pretty soon. But
why would he go to the portal? He'll get a carry or 2 a game next year on average. Why would he go to the portal? It makes no sense, Gary. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I think he'll be headed to the portal. They haven't been playing him the last few weeks. I'm guessing on purpose. because he certainly didn't do anything to earn a demotion. But Jordan Lyle, clearly to me, as good as AJ Allen has been when he's had opportunities, Jordan Lyle is headed towards elite and is better. And there's nobody that's getting screwed on this Miami football team.
By the way, next year, if Damian Martinez comes back, he's very reliable, very, very good. Is he elite, Damian Martinez? I'm not quite there yet in terms of the great Miami backs. Same with Mark Fletcher. Like, I'm not sure he's there with the great Miami backs.
No.
But Jordan Lyle might be. Like, in terms of his actual physical ability, Jordan Lyle might be in that line of those great Miami running backs. Like, this is what they do as freshmen. What you saw Jordan Lyle do, that's what those great running backs do their first year in limited opportunities.
Yep.
And if he's in that line, then in my opinion, he should start next year ahead of Damian Martinez, ahead of Mark Fletcher. Those guys will freak out. I get it. But like Mario Cristobal, you got to play the best players. So I'm really curious next year what happens. All three of those guys are on this roster.
Especially next year. Next year, you're not playing. That schedule is brutal next year. Yeah, no time for games, man. You're going to have your best players on the field next year. Yes, by next year, Jordan Lyle should be ready for a fuller load. He's going to
be a monster, that guy.
And should be a monster next season. I totally agree. But I think the way they're using the backs this year is perfectly fine. And they're healthy, fresh. They have a great running back room, great chemistry going, and no reason to change now in terms of that. Passing game, I mean, we're sitting here nitpicking, but Cam Ward broke Bernie Kosar's single season passing record yesterday with a game to go. And the passing game's been fine for most of the year. I mean, there's no reason to get too crazy here about that. I would just say, Shannon Dawson, stay vertical, buddy. Like, you're hurting yourself by killing drives by going horizontal, and it cost you the Georgia Tech game because they had 3 drives in the second half of Georgia Tech that got blown up because he called bubble screens that went nowhere. I mean, Miami's just not good at executing the bubble screen. It's you have to, at some point, maybe too late now, you have to accept it. And it hurt them at least once. I can remember yesterday in the middle of the game there where they were floundering around on offense. But listen, when you go in the tank on offense against one of the worst defenses in the country in a game at home like they did yesterday, that's on the coach. And Shannon Dawson's had a great year this year. I didn't think he had a great day yesterday because he was not aggressive enough. And like I said, you used the word conservative, and I thought he was a little too conservative in this game. And that's why Miami didn't look as good offensively as it has. But to the credit of all, they turned it on in the middle of the fourth quarter, and they put lipstick on a pig, so to speak, and made this win look good to the rest of the country, because I can assure you not too many people were watching Miami Wake Forest. And they just see the score, they see the stats, they see 10-1 Miami, now going to probably move up to, I don't know, maybe number 7 in the country, getting ready to go to Syracuse with a chance to go to the ACC championship game. And that is all that matters right now. What has happened in the past is irrelevant. You got an opportunity this Saturday up there at Syracuse. Miami cannot let that go to waste. Waited way too long to go to Charlotte with a quality team with a chance to win there. Miami has never won the ACC title. This is the opportunity here this year. Got to get it done. Okay, now defensively, Matt, I thought Lance Guidry went back to being Lance Guidry. I mean, I know he got a big assist from Wake Forest with their play calling, with their strategy, with their abandonment of the passing game. But beyond that, he got his personnel in the right places. I thought moving Mesidor back outside was a very, very, very astute move. Tyler Barron has been killing them on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if it's lack of effort. He showed ability early in the year, but he has not been playing well. So they took Mesidor from inside outside, increased the rotation at tackle. And then Lance Guidry went back to being Lance Guidry and started running his defense. He was bringing blitzes. He was mixing things up. Just what we've seen Lance Guidry do when Lance Guidry has done well. And, Wake was pretty much helpless once they got out of the first quarter. and they tried to turn it into a running game. But there were some areas of concern because when Wake was throwing and running, they put a 17-play drive together. Mish Powell ended it with that interception, but that was a little scary. The teams can ball control it down the field on them like that, eating up an enormous amount of clock. And obviously the mental breakdowns early in the game were a concern. But all in all, Matt, I thought the defense took a step forward. I thought the offense was a victim of the play calling and lack of aggressiveness. And we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the special teams, which I'm going to say for the second time this year, I believe, were an absolute horror show. I mean, horrendous special teams yesterday. Other than obviously the tackle that Dylan Day made late in the fourth quarter to force the fumble, and Cam Pruitt recovered. I mean, that kickoff return for a touchdown was absolutely horrific. Nobody touched the guy. The first question I'll ask is, why isn't Andres Borregales just kicking the ball out of the end zone like he can? Unless he's mishitting that kick. If the strategy is to have them return the kick, that needs to be thrown in the garbage can here for the rest of the season, because just a horrendous job on kickoff coverage yesterday on that kickoff. I mean, Claiborne, he was not even touched on that return, not touched one time. And then there was a punt return later that was almost as bad, except it didn't go for a touchdown. I don't know what that kick was at the end of the game, towards the end of the game. I'm assuming it was intended to be a squib kick that Borregales mishit. Okay, shit happens, whatever. Like, you're not going to overreact to that. Dylan Joyce, who doesn't get the punt very often, had a bad punt mixed in there as well. And special teams really hurt Miami a lot in that game yesterday. They got to figure out what they need to do to get that fixed. I don't know if it's getting more starters on the kickoff team or what that is, but you can't be giving up kick returns like that as the degree of difficulty goes up now. Syracuse is better than these other teams they've been playing. Their record's better. Their performance has been better. SMU is playing unbelievable football. I mean, kudos to Rhett Lashley, who's proving that he is a head coach, and he just got a nice extension up there in Dallas. Miami goes to Dallas next year. Circle that one on your calendar when the schedule comes out. That's going to be a tough out for Miami going up to SMU. But the degree of difficulty is going to get greater here down the stretch, and there's no room for error. And now it's time to tighten the belt a little bit. You've got a 11-game size sample of your team, what you're good at, what you're not good at. This is it, man. You're running out of time to make adjustments. You got to run with what you brung. And, I think Miami has to consider doing some different things with that special teams, because the guys out there are letting down too much, and that can cost you a football game if it happens moving forward. So, Matt, before we turn the clock to Syracuse, parting thoughts on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, the special teams hidden yardage was not so hidden. How come no one talks about this, by the way? I know you harp on the ACC is so great and amazing, and it's undervalued, blah, blah. You just talked about how great SMU is, right? SMU a year ago was in the AAC playing Temple, Tulsa, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, UAB, They moved to the ACC, and they're the best team in the ACC by far immediately. You explain that to me, how this amazing conference of the ACC takes an AAC team, and it's by far the best team in the conference right now, record-wise. I mean, Miami's right there, but do you take back what you said about how great the ACC is? Because SMU has made the ACC look like a bunch of, no names coming from the AAC, which is a lowly conference, obviously. So
the ACC has been competitive this year. I don't think that the ACC is at the level of the SEC, but I think the SEC is too top heavy. And if I could be the commissioner of college football, I would take a few of those SEC teams. I would move them to the ACC and make the ACC and the SEC comparable conferences. Redistribute the money so everybody's taken care of. It doesn't have to be as top heavy as it is, and create a really nice competitive college football. You need 4 good conferences to make this right. And, you know, it really annoys the crap out of me to see these SEC people lobbying to get 5 teams, 6 teams in the college football playoff, suggesting the 3-loss SEC teams should get a chance to be in the final 12. No, that's not what should happen. You guys chose to put this league together to the detriment of everybody else in college football because you wanted an extra $20 million a year. You chased the money. You got the money. Shut the hell up. Okay. You guys are going to beat the crap out of each other like this every year. Like, it's going to be very hard for one team or 2 teams to separate themselves in this SEC of today. It just is. On top of that, you've got several of your teams that never have a chance to win anything. Like, they have no shot. You know, the South Carolinas of the world. You put South Carolina in the ACC, they are an asset. Like, they make the league better. In the SEC, they're just sitting there, you know, collecting dust. They'll never win anything. You know, there's other teams, the Arkansas of the world. Like, these schools, even Ole Miss, I think, just took their 3rd loss yesterday. I mean, like, these teams have no chance really to do anything on a consistent basis. Let's get some equity in these conferences, so we're not sitting here saying one conference is better than the other. Let's get some, and I'm not saying they're going to do this because they're not, but get some equity in the damn conferences and create a legit regular season to where you're not sitting there playing games at the end of the year, lobbying for 3-loss teams to get into the college football playoff. I mean, you know, that's a total joke. But look, for Miami's purposes, they just got to do, you know, the schedule is the schedule. It's going to be a lot tougher next year. Just finish it off now. You know, you got to go beat Syracuse Saturday. If you lose to Syracuse on Saturday, I don't think you can call this a successful season. I'm not even sure you can call it a season of great progress if you lose to Syracuse Saturday, because we all know that Cam Ward has made a 2 or 3 game difference in the results. So if you lose the second game and you finish the year 10-2, and Cam Ward helped you win 2 to 3 games, what does that mean? That means you're a 7-5 level team this year. That is not good enough here for Mario Cristobal in year 3. I mean, I'm sorry. Way too much work, way too much money, way too much effort has gone into putting Miami in the position that it is in as it heads to Syracuse on Saturday. They must get it done. There are no excuses. We can't be sitting here next Sunday talking about too much conservatism by the play callers, you know, mental mistakes on defense, horrible special teams play. No, there's no room for that anymore. Saturday, the Canes, who have so far played their best game in week 1 against Florida, a team that has gotten progressively better, we're seeing as the year has gone on. Miami has not gotten progressively better as the year has gone on. It has not. That is pure honesty, and we always have to be honest. They have an opportunity now to change that beginning Saturday and then the following Saturday. Matt, they just got to get it done, man. There's no room for, you know, idle conversation and excuses, talk. Now it's show me time. You're in position. Get yourself to the championship game. Go to Charlotte. Play a great game. You'll get a first-round bye in college football playoff. You will be 3 wins away from a national championship. Period.
Well, I tried to ask I was asking a rhetorical question about SMU. You weren't supposed to even answer, and now you've been talking for 10 minutes about, I don't know how you turned it into this. But yeah, obviously,
stuff off my chest, man. I was aggravated yesterday. I don't like all this nonsense coming out of the SEC, where they're trying to play all high and mighty and disrespecting everybody else and what they've done. Like, you know, it's wrong. Like, if you lose 3 games in that league, you don't deserve to be in a 12-team playoff. I'm sorry.
It depends who you're going in over. You know, is a 2-loss Miami team with a schedule that their toughest game maybe now will turn out to be Florida, and that was without Florida's quarterback, right? A different quarterback. Is that different than, you know, if there are teams that have lost 3 games that have played 4 or 5 top teams and maybe beat a couple of them and lost to 3 of them? I don't know. You know, it's a tough call.
I'm not do you put Ole Miss in ahead of them? Ole Miss just lost to Florida.
Listen, if you want to put your Miami hat on, then you can argue Miami all day long. Certainly there's a case for any 2-loss team to be ahead of any 3-loss team, period, regardless of schedule. They only lost 2 games. So yeah,
I think 3 losses should be a disqualifier.
well, remember, this is a new system, right? What you don't want to do, what I don't want to do is I don't want to punish teams for playing 3 really tough non-conference opponents, because now you wind up just crap games. Like, I don't want Miami to keep playing, FAMU and Bethune and like these nonsense teams every year just because, God forbid, you lose to a really good non-conference team. Well, now you're punished. I don't want that to be the case. So that's why I'm saying I don't mind a 3-loss team being in the playoffs as long as they played a tough non-conference schedule and they played in a good conference against really good conference teams. Like, I have no problem with a 3-loss team in that scenario over a 2-loss team that just scheduled nobodies. Like, I don't have a problem with that. At the same time,
I think 3 should be a
well, then nobody's going to play good non-conference games anymore. They may as well just schedule conference games from now on, because
the SEC teams don't play.
The money and the fans are in the playoffs, and there's no more money to be had. Miami versus Notre Dame, Miami versus Florida, Miami versus Oklahoma. There's no point, because if you lose that game and that's your 3rd loss and you're out of the playoffs because of it at the end of the year, don't play that game. That's what you're saying. And I'm not for that. I'm for playing
Look at their schedules. I think you will find that very few SEC teams play tough non-conference games.
I'm not
and some of the better ones will play 1.
Okay, I'm not saying that that's the case, but next year, for instance, right, Miami plays, I think, Notre Dame, Florida, and I think they have another tough non-conference game. In your scenario, let's say they lose to Notre Dame and Florida and lose in the ACC title game. They run the ACC conference. They're undefeated in the ACC conference. They lose in the ACC title game. It's their 3rd loss. You say they shouldn't be in. I would argue they should be. Okay, but that's your opinion versus mine. I mean, it is what it is.
I will make a pact right now that if it plays out that way and Miami's sitting there with 3 losses next year, I will say with 3 losses, Miami doesn't deserve to be in the college football playoff.
So just say these words: I was wrong, Matt Shodell was right. That's all you have to say. You just said it.
I'm making a pact with you right now that I will not say that 12 months from now if that's how it plays out.
That they should not be in the playoffs in that scenario, or they should be?
A 3-loss team should not be.
Oh, you're sticking with it. I thought you were reversing. I thought you were reversing course. If Miami goes undefeated in the ACC next year and loses a close ACC title game and lost to 2 top 10 teams,
and lost to Florida and Notre Dame, and then lost the SEC,
and lost to a ranked Clemson team in the ACC title game, I'm fine with that. They should be in the playoffs.
They have 3 losses. They lost 3 good teams. They beat a bunch of garbage in the middle, and they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. I will make a pact. I'm not going to be two-faced.
I'm a big fan of the best teams in the playoffs. I don't want a 1-loss BYU team in the playoffs ahead of a 2-loss Miami team. I don't want a 2-loss Miami
because they won't let BYU play in the SEC. Like the SEC and Big Ten, the SEC and Big Ten won't let BYU play in that league.
Okay, so
they go out, they win all their games, they win their league, and they're supposed to be told, no, you're not as good as these guys over here that have lost.
So Miami loses in the ACC title game, have 2 losses. You would rather have BYU with 1 loss there instead of Miami with 2 losses, correct? Even though you know Miami's a better team. I just want the best teams in the playoffs, period.
I think a 1-loss BYU team would be there regardless, but I'm just saying that I just don't think. I think if you lose 3 games during the course of the year, you're out of the playoff. Period. Go to a great bowl game.
Okay, so make that a rule. So if that's
for you to go to,
that's a new rule. Make it the rule, and you will see non-conference competition dry up. If that's what you want,
already dried up.
I mean, listen, I'm not a political guy, but if you tax every single Chinese product 20%, which they're not going to do. But if you did, you'll see inflation go up. It's just common sense. Like, you can't just make blanket statements. Every 3-loss team shouldn't be in the playoffs, because they'll stop scheduling good teams, and you'll have a crap non-conference schedule and a crap home schedule. And who the hell wants that? I want good games. I want fun games. I want competitive games, not 66-0. Everyone leaves at halftime. Anyway,
3 games with at least 2 of them being in conference. You lose 3 games. I'm sorry. I'm imposing a tariff on you. Okay.
Yeah, listen, I'm sorry that your 12-year-old boys basketball team didn't make the playoffs with 3 losses 4 years ago, okay? But, like, it doesn't apply to college football. Anyway,
we didn't lose.
So you mentioned Lance Guidry
every year, Matt.
Yeah. So you mentioned the defense before and Lance Guidry, and of course you didn't ask me about it. And the Syracuse game you mentioned also. So I'll just say this, right up front. Like, I've started looking at the Syracuse film. And we have a story, talking about it this morning, right? And sort of what I've seen on film. And really, of course, it comes down to Colin McCord, right? You saw what Pittsburgh did to Colin McCord, 5 interceptions and 2 return for touchdowns or whatever. Like, he was a disaster against them. And like I said earlier, The key with Kyle McCord is take away his first read. Once you take away his first read, rushing 4, he really has a problem. Very good against the blitz, not real good when you take away that first read and you get pressure with 4. He really has problems, which is why I think this, in particular, this Miami defense actually matches up decently. The key for Miami is going to be eye discipline, because if you watch just watch the first 2 plays of the Connecticut game last week, and it's in the story this morning. I have both the clips. First play, they got one-on-one coverage down the right side, deep pass, 50 yards. Next play, 3 tight end set. Gadsden's all alone on the left side, and on the right side, the receiver's wide open too for a touchdown. Like, it's hard to hold up with the receivers one-on-one, but if you do, and if that's his first read, he's going to have a problem. So the big issue for Miami is going to be, is this thing actually fixed in real life? Because, again, Mish Powell essentially threw Wake Forest passing game into the garbage. They stopped trying to throw the ball after that. And maybe that's a credit to, hey, OJ Frederick and Darryl Porter are covering our guys. Mish Powell's intercepting everything. I don't know if that's why, because Miami was so great. The PFF grades obviously don't say that was the case. My only concern going to the Syracuse game is sometimes when you have this kind of success and it's not real, it makes it worse, because Syracuse knows that what Miami did those last 3 quarters are exactly what they're going to do against Syracuse, right? Because it worked. For the first time all year since the Florida game, Miami's defense worked. So now Syracuse can look at those 3 quarters and say, here's what they were doing, here's how we counter that. Now it becomes, can Lance Guidry on the fly figure out whatever the heck Syracuse is going to do to counter it, right? Because we don't know yet. And will his players understand that? Because what we've seen in the past is, prior to the Wake Forest game, is they have not adjusted from the beginning of the game, and they wind up in these dogfights in the third quarter. And then a lot of times in the second half, the defense is better, figuring it out. But if you're in a game in the third or fourth quarter on the road at Syracuse, high-scoring game potentially, like, I'm not sure that's not a 50-50 game at that point. And you don't want to be in that scenario with so much on the line. Like you said, like, it's all there. The AC title game, the playoffs, and it could all just disappear with one loss. So really, to me, I know Cam Ward's going to be fine. I'm not really, I know the offense has struggled a little bit the last couple of games. They're going to be fine. I'm not real worried about the offense. Syracuse is an average to below average defense. I know I say it every week, and yeah, it comes in spurts, but they're still scoring 42 points, right, against Wake Forest. Like, if I said before the game, what did I predict? 48-21, right? And it was 42-14. Like, fans were on the message board in the third quarter, like, Shodell, what were you talking about? And at the end of the game, they're like, oh, you were right. And I wasn't right. I also thought Wake Forest would have 400 yards of offense, and they weren't even close. So to me, it all comes down to what I said. They have to essentially either confuse Kyle McCord, get pressure with 4, or take away the first read. And if Lance Guidry is as good a coordinator as some think he is, most think he's not at this point, unfortunately. I'm not going to cast aspersions. But if he's as good as those who think he is, can I say is? I don't know if that's probably not correct English. If those who think he's as good as he is, then he will find a way to, hey, when they line up in this formation, this is usually their first read. 80% of the time, we're taking that away. Hey, in this formation, the running backs getting the ball 72% of the time, we're run blitzing like they did constantly with a lot of success against Wake Forest. Those RPOs, have good eye discipline linebackers. Don't be crunching up like Connecticut did when, McCord threw for almost 500 yards, right? They've got to have good eye discipline. They've got to have good technical coverage, and they've got to take away the first read. That's the number one priority for Lance Guidry. If he doesn't do it, then it's going to be right back to the people in the press box saying he should be fired again, And
got you. What is that? Your take on Stephen Wagner's really?
Yeah, pretty much. And, I was walking yesterday when a Miami fan accosted me out of the blue. And, he claimed he recognized me. I said, don't all Jews look like this? Maybe that's not an appropriate thing to say. But he had a dog with him. And every time another dog would go near this dog, he would push a button on this little remote control. And the dog would go, okay, maybe it wasn't quite like that. But he had a shock collar on the dog to, I don't know if you train it or whatever. He had one button was a whistle that only the dog could hear. I could hear it too somehow. I don't know how that happened. And the other was a shock.
Your dog.
And if Miami players, they say they're dogs, right? That's the big thing in football, right? I'm a dog. Like if they do not maintain their eye discipline, then I would highly encourage Lance Guidry to put shock collars on them and punish them every time they have bad eye discipline, because maybe that'll teach them. Because it's been 9 out of 11 games, the eye discipline has been bad. It's been bad. They've been bad dogs. They've been bad dogs. You know what? And if they're bad dogs, don't put dog outfits on them either, Ferman. No outfits for them.
No shock collars on the defensive players. No. All right.
Let me tell you, it would work, by the way. That actually would work. Do you deny that it would work? Shock collars on a defensive player? If you don't have eye discipline, you get shocked? They would have amazing eye discipline.
Shot collars, unbelievable. I'll get back to that in a second, but first I got to take a minute here and talk about Game Time, because I know there's a lot of our Canes brothers and sisters out there that want to go to the game in Syracuse. You want to go to hopefully go to the ACC championship game in Charlotte, and you're going to need tickets. Well, GameTime.co, not .com, .co, and the Game Time app are your best option to go hunting for tickets, and here's why. They have a new feature on Game Time called Game Time Picks, where they weed out all the trash, so to speak, cut through all the jarble, and they give you the best seats at the best price that's available for that event at that venue. And that really just makes the ticket buying process so much easier for you. They also have curated deals. They have super deals and great visual presentation at Game Time. So if you need those tickets, you can go get them. Now, you're not going to be late to a Canes game, but let's say you're going to some other event and you're not going to be able to make it for the start. You can go on Game Time after the event starts, and you can buy. They have last minute deals where you could buy some of those remnant seats that are still available at a great price. It sometimes goes as late as an hour after the event. They have a lowest price guarantee. They'll credit you 110% of the difference if they're not giving you the lowest price. And the thing that I love the most is that they have a toggle switch where when you look at the price, you get all in pricing. And nothing worse in the ticket buying business than fees, which are totally out of control. I don't know why, it just makes it so much more difficult to figure out what you're actually paying. Well, you toggle that all in pricing switch at Game Time, they give you the real price of your purchase. Lots of other features as well. Event cancellation protection. You get refunded within 24 hours if your event gets canceled. Job loss assurance, which is kind of cool. Sometimes you buy your tickets months in advance. You lose your job. You say to Game Time, "Hey, I lost my job. I need my money back from these tickets. I got to go buy groceries this week, whatever." They'll give you your money back. They'll take care of you. They have you covered. So download the Game Time app, go to gametime.co, whatever your choice, and when you make your first purchase, enter the coupon code ON3, ON3, and they will give you $20 off your first purchase. That's the Game Time app, gametime.co, coupon code ON3. You get $20 off. Terms apply. But what time is it if you need tickets? It is absolutely Game Time. All right. Now, let's get back to this shock collar thing. Honestly,
or an invisible fence. They're dogs. They say they're dogs. So look, they got to play like dogs.
I think we would be deceiving ourselves if we felt like this bust situation, coverage confusion issue that Miami has been plagued by all season is just suddenly now mysteriously gone because it didn't resurface after the first quarter against Wake Forest. And Syracuse is bringing a passing game to the table this week. That's going to be a lot more challenging. The SMU passing game will probably be even more challenging than that because they have a quarterback named Jennings who moves around and plays. It almost looks like he's trying to imitate Cam Ward, to be honest with you. I mean, in Dallas, they would probably say that Cam Ward is trying to imitate Jennings, but they're very similar quarterbacks and they play in a very similar way. And
have you seen Rhett Less's pre-snap movement, by the way? That's a bigger problem than the quarterback running. I mean, because Miami's confusion already. Like, that's the biggest problem. Forget the running quarterback.
Yeah, we will be talking a lot about that next week if Miami takes care of business this weekend. But the point I'm making is It might not hurt to have those Matt Shodell branded shock collars these next couple weeks available at Amazon.
I'm going to get one for you. I'm going to put one on you. I want one for you for when we're on the show so I can just do it right now and get you to stop talking. I'm getting one for you. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to send it to you right now.
Available Lance Guidry at Amazon.com for $2.99. You can get your Matt Shodell shock collar.
It's a shock collar.
On all your DVDs.
Forget it. They're like $38. Forget it. I'm not getting you one. You have to get yourself one. I can expense it. I'll expense it. I'm going to expense it.
But let's be honest, that these things are going to be issues these next couple weeks. Miami DBs got to get in their books this week. They got to make sure they show up at the stadium prepared for these games, knowing what they are supposed to be doing. I don't know where that has broken down this year. We've seen it in almost every game. Sometimes they've been able to make the adjustments. Sometimes they've not. And like I said earlier in the show, it's all on the line these next few weeks. There's no more excuses, no more room for failure. If you got to take Tyler Barron and sit him down on the bench and just give him 2 reps in the game, then that's what you got to do, man. And I'm sure Tyler Barron's not happy, but they rolled him out there every week this year, and he did not give them max effort. He did not play to the level that they know he can, because before the season, all I'm hearing out on the practice field was that, man, this Tyler Barron kid, he might be a first-round draft pick after this year. Okay, that's how much he was impressing on the practice field. Went into the Gator game, played great. Totally tore up FAMU. I think he had 3 sacks in that game, and then it's been like zilch since then. So listen, you got to be ruthless and damage someone's career by making a move like that. Well, that's what you got to do at this time of the year. Everybody's got to be accountable.
You were saying the exact opposite a year ago, but whatever.
No, man. You gotta there's no time to play.
You're like, you don't want to ruin people's careers. You don't want to ruin anyone's careers.
No, man. This is a real season here, and he earned that demotion.
I agree with you 100%.
Now, let me say this though, Matt. They're going to need Tyler Barron against Syracuse and SMU, and like the way Lance Guidry played defense against Wake Forest has absolutely nothing to do with how he's going to need to play defense against better passing teams in Syracuse and SMU. And, hopefully that was a wake-up call for Tyler Barron, and that he uses it as fuel to come out next Saturday and make a positive contribution to this football team. If not, you got to put his butt back on the bench. But the point is, they don't have pass rushers on this team right now. And, they're going to need it against better passing teams. And so the last point I'll make is, what I just said, in that, Lance Guidry was back on Saturday. Once they worked through that first quarter, he called a great game, put Mish Powell in position to make that play. You can go on and on and on and on. Lance Guidry did a great job on Saturday, but has nothing to do with what the challenges are going forward. And we will find out as time goes by if the Miami defense is going to be up to that challenge. By
the way, I will say this. If Lance Guidry can really slow down the Syracuse passing attack, not give up the explosive plays, the big gains in the run game, then I am going to say that it was all on the players previously, because this is probably the most explosive offense Miami's playing all year. I honestly believe that, even with Louisville having a lot of players. Probably the best passing quarterback they're playing all year. So if he can accomplish this Herculean task, then I hope Miami fans will forgive all the past transgressions of this defense and say Lance Guidry is for real, because those last 3 quarters were outstanding. And now if you put together 4 quarters against Syracuse, you could say, listen, the bye week, the players weren't understanding it. His defensive system is sound. His defensive system is fine. Once the players understood it better as the year went on, the last 2 games, bam, and then into the SMU game. But these next 2 games, if they beat Syracuse and SMU and the defense does well, I mean, Lance Guidry should not only be retained, he should get a raise. They should lock him in for the next 10 years, because that will tell you everything you need to know. These next 2 games aren't just about Miami going to the playoffs. These are about Lance Guidry's future. And it's either sink or swim, because if Syracuse lights up Miami's defense and they lose, the noise from the outside will be so loud that it might force Mario Cristobal to not even have a choice, even if internally they think he's a great coordinator. I mean, you can't survive. I know Mario says ignore the outside noise, but he never does. He doesn't. I mean, he's on Twitter 24/7. We know he doesn't ignore the outside noise. He wants Miami fans to be happy. He wants Miami fans to feel like they're getting the best for their dollar spent in NIL. So this isn't just about Miami making the playoffs. This is about Lance Guidry's future, and I'm rooting for him. I know I've been hard on him at times. I think deservedly so. I only say what I feel. I know people sometimes think he's great. They're annoyed that I say that he wasn't, and vice versa. Sometimes they think that he's terrible, and they think I should be harder on him. But I just say it how I think it is, and I think the last 3 quarters, hopefully it was Miami being great and not Wake Forest being terrible. But we're going to find out these next 2 games.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say is I don't think it's all been Lance Guidry's fault. I don't think it's all been the players' fault. I think they've all been in it together. I think they've all been in it together. I don't think Lance Guidry has been comfortable with this personnel set that he has this year. I thought Saturday was one of the few games where he actually called the game like Lance Guidry is known to call a game, and he got the results from it. So happy for him in that regard. The only asterisk I'll put on that as we part and let everybody get on with their day is not every team they've played this year, really almost no teams they've played this year are as bad as that Wake Forest team was.
Yeah. And I'll make one more point, Gary, because I know you were harsh on James Williams and Cam Kinchins and Jaden Davis and the Darryl Porter and whatever last year. That was a really good secondary, and it made Lance Guidry's system look good. The issue he's having this year is how do you mask a bad secondary? Because too many games, he doesn't have a scheme to do that. Other coordinators have found ways when they have a hole at this corner spot. Because O.J. Frederick's great, right? But he hasn't been able to mask issues with Mish Powell being too slow in certain games, with Jaden Harris having bad eyes and taking bad angles, with the other corners underperforming. He hasn't been able to mask any of that, which is why fans have called him out. But if you can do it against Syracuse and do it against SMU, then I would argue he's right up there with the elite coordinators in the country. Now, can he? We're going to find out, because it's been hit or miss all year with this defense.
Well, and I think the thing we're finding is there aren't so many elite coordinators out there. There just aren't. I'm sorry. There just aren't. So it's a weekly battle.
All elite means is in the top 20 of the coordinators. They could all be terrible. Elite just means in the top group. It doesn't mean they're all amazing.
I can't wait to see the smile on his face as he walks into that press conference today, because he will be happy with what they got on Saturday.
If he may come in with a beer in one hand and a freaking party hat in the other hand, waving it around, a big celebration time, man. Everyone party.
We will have it for you one way or the other on the website later today. We'll be talking to Mario Cristobal a few times, so stay tuned to CaneSport.com. If you're not yet a subscriber, come on, man. Please come on over to our site. Your subscriptions allow us to do what we do every day. They're so important to the whole, package of what we try to bring you guys on a year-round basis. You've got these big games coming up. You've got recruiting, signing day coming up. You've got the transfer portal coming up. We will have it all covered for you like maniacs. We just need you to do your part. Come on over, get yourself a subscription. You will not be sorry. We have a great group of fans on the message boards every day. You will have a lot of fun. So head on over to CaneSport.com, get your subscription. And if you're on YouTube right now, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It will help us with the algorithms at YouTube in growing our audience. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for starting out your day with us this morning, and we will see you tomorrow, everybody.